Namaste and welcome back to another episode of Sapient. Today we have yet another guest, and they are from North Carolina, USA. Welcome, Lacey and Drew.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us. We're excited to be here.
Thank you so much. Um, at any part of this episode, if you feel like my English is too fast, you can ask me to slow down. That's not at all a problem for me. Um, yeah. So how are you doing today?
Great. The sun is out. It's been real rainy and cold for the last few days, but the sun is out and it's going to be mid 60s.
Mhm.
So that's warm for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why do you guys have to come up with like a different system than the whole world to measure anything?
Right? I know. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to translate that to
Yeah.
Celsius. I don't know.
And in our school,
We're rebels.
we really don't even learn the rest of the world.
No.
Like it's the American way, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
My apologies.
I mean, I don't think you personally had a hand in that, right?
No,
Right.
no. I wish early on I had realized how rebellious we were and kind of gotten on track with all the other
Mhm.
metric system and whatnot, but we did not. I've
Yeah.
tried, but it's hard.
I mean, you'd not believe me. Like, there is a monitor onto my right that I keep looking at, and I have like multiple browsers open to convert weight, currency, distance. Like, it's
Yeah.
just converters.
Yeah.
Because whenever I speak to Americans, and I understand that like I need to be careful in terms of talking about measurements.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
As I was saying it, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be it's comfortably warm.
Yeah. So what's the deal with you? Like, what's your, let's say, current goal in life?
Oh, current goal.
Oh,
That's a big deal. I think for our overarching goal is always just to learn and then to help other people learn
Mhm.
things that benefit their lives, whether it's gardening or teaching their kids or having a successful family life. I think, we just want to learn and grow and try things and then
Mhm.
help other people do the same thing.
I would say also a connection, a spiritual connection
Mhm.
to both their community
Mhm.
and to the earth.
Mhm.
In whatever that looks like for a person, but
Mhm.
typically our passion is food
Mhm.
and food and spirituality,
Yeah.
which is kind of a strange one, right?
So, Drew, you had to step out and choose very wild things, I would say, compared to the American standard, right?
Right. Yeah, we're outliers for sure.
Yeah, because unfortunately in today's society, right, anybody who is self-aware, right, like who likes to think, I would say, is seen as like
Mhm.
an outsider or an outcast or like like even hippie. And
Right.
I feel like I feel very weird about it, because it's like either you're part of my tribe or you're not.
Mm.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you know
Well, I think people want a sense of belonging,
yes.
and then when they don't know where to put someone,
Mhm.
it makes them feel uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And I think that's switching a little bit, though. I think we're noticing that. I wonder, how is it where you're at? Do you feel like an outlier where you're at?
No, because fortunately in India we have not yet lost our roots, I would say,
Yeah.
compared to other countries. So um, that I think the reason is 40+% of Indians are farmers.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
So it's
Yeah.
like you could be a software engineer, but either you are farming or somebody in your house, like whether it's your brother or sister or father or mother, within that
Right.
micro family someone is farming. So it's like people have not yet lost that touch to reality.
Right.
But we are seeing
To reality. I love that.
yeah, but we are seeing more spoiled brats coming up.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like the next generation, because for us, I know my grandparents
Mhm.
farmed and Drew's grandparents farmed, so it like skipped a generation of our parents all just left the farm. So I think we're all just one generation. Most Americans
Right.
removed from
Yeah.
being in tune and in touch with growing
Mhm.
and animal care, but I think we're all kind of aching for it.
Mhm.
So it's kind of fun to see there's a wave of new people moving into that lifestyle
Yeah.
really
Well,
hoping
and
to.
I think some of it was like in American society or in that generation, my parents' generation, it was an effort for convenience.
Hmm.
Was we kind of always talk about this, like they wanted an easier life. They didn't want to
Mm.
get up in the morning and shovel manure or take care of animals. You know,
Hmm.
um they wanted it easier and more convenient.
Hmm.
And you know, within our society, that meant like microwave meals
Yes.
and not
Neglected
having to be
children.
connected to your food. What's that?
Neglected children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they also, I mean, I think they wanted wealth
Hmm.
too, and they thought, well, if I get an education and I work in an office, then I'll have more money. And that was,
Yes.
I think, another huge pull.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the problem is, once you start talking about farming, um, because see, right now I live in a city which, have you heard of a concept called as 10-minute cities?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I live in one of those guys.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. So Bangalore was deliberately designed to be a 10-minute city. So for those people, for my listeners who do not know what is a 10-minute city, so 10-minute city is a concept by United Nations, where they thought that it would be a good idea if every citizen of the city had access to education, healthcare, and utilities and entertainment within 10 minutes of their reach. um,
Hmm.
so that's what is today's
So they set it up around easy transportation systems and
mhm.
things like that, right? Like
Yes,
it's.
so they made sure, like there is highly dependable transportation, there is
Hmm.
well designed architecture, like deliberate architecture. So it's like
Hmm.
probably every 10 kilometers, just give me a second, let me look into miles because I'm very bad
I
at it.
think that's like 3 miles.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, hopefully you're better than me in that. um yeah, it's 6.2 miles. So yeah,
Oh.
Oh,
the plan was
okay.
to have like, one hospital every 6 or 7 miles, let's say.
Hmm.
um
Hmm.
Mm.
and schools and everything. But the problem that arise, right, let's say, from that process is people have become dependent. Like it's almost like people have become domesticated animals at this point of time, where they need somebody to
Yes.
feed, they need somebody to be taken
Oh my
care of.
gosh.
And yeah, that's a very dangerous thing, I would say. um
Oh, that's so fascinating. We were just talking about this a lot a couple of weeks ago about
mhm,
I don't know if you're familiar with the story of and at Passover, which is a Jewish holiday and it's coming up
mhm,
where
yeah.
Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt. And the story goes, 80% of the people actually opted out of leaving because
Mhm,
they were comfortable and all their needs were taken
yeah.
care of. And so we were kind of trying to like match up how is it
Mhm,
that way now?
mhm,
And that, oh my goodness, is like exactly what it was, right?
yeah.
You have everything you need, somebody's taking care of it, but
Mhm.
now you're completely reliant on that.
But
That's really
but
interesting.
also at the same time kind of enslaved. You
Yeah.
know, like
It's
Yeah, I
slavery,
would say it's
modern
literal,
slavery. Yeah.
literal sense, because um right now we have mobile apps, right, where you could order anything and it could be delivered to you within like 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes. Like
Wow.
they are running guarantees. Like if you don't deliver to you within like 8 minutes, it's for free.
wow.
And it's anything.
Whoa.
Like if I could show you, it's literally
Yeah.
from everything to anything that you could ever imagine. Like, do you want a Samsung TV? Like, do you want a refrigerator? I don't know,
Oh
washing
my
machine,
gosh.
like iPhone.
In eight
Yeah,
minutes.
in 8 to 10 minutes maximum. And
Wow.
that's during,
How big is this?
sorry.
How big is this city? Like how many people?
So my city is 80 lakhs, which is like, let me just quickly look at it. Sorry.
That's all right.
So Bangalore population is around, let me just see in millions, right? It's like 13.6 million.
Whoa. That good.
There's that many people and you can still get stuff in 8 minutes.
Yeah, so
That's oh, wow, my mind can't even.
it's like 286 square miles, the city. Yes. And
And everything is like broken down into the 10 minutes.
yes, typically. So if you just walk, in my city, you can understand this architecture and the design decisions, where you go, okay, this was the reason you put this particular building here.
Yeah.
It's like deliberate design, and even commercial zones and everything has been designed in a particular way. Because in India there is nothing called as, like, I would say, industrial zones or residential zones. Now they are coming up with it, but the earlier way to indirectly enforce that was to make the roads bigger where they wanted commercial growth.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was like an indirect thing. Yeah.
So what happens when you get outside of the city? What
Mhm.
does it look like? Is it just connected to another city, or do you have
No,
agriculture out there?
we have huge agriculture. Even in some part of my city, even till today, we do farming.
Okay.
Yeah, so if I could
Yeah.
just quickly show you, like, can you look
Yeah.
at my phone? Hopefully,
Yeah.
yeah, it zooms in.
Yeah. A
So,
little blurry, but yeah.
okay, let me get it near. So, you can get anything and everything within like 8 minutes. Like, look
Oh
at
my
it.
gosh.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
there is unlimited choices, whatever you can get. And it does not
Um,
only stop at food or anything. It literally goes to iPhones and stuff that's like crazy expensive. But it's as you said, Drew, it's like pushing people in a certain direction. Because if someone has a habit of like going on a shopping spree, imagine how screwed they would be, right?
Right. Yeah.
well, and that's one of the things I think have it's like the full circle of understanding that, okay, gaining wealth, what does the wealth do? It gives you the ability to buy more.
Hmm.
And so people started buying more as a way to kind of satiate that craving
Yeah.
to create.
Mhm.
And I think what we're realizing is that it's very dissatisfying, and we can see, on the charts how American health has gone, and
Mhm.
it's just quickly
Yeah.
going negatively, right? Like
Yeah.
terribly.
Yeah.
And so it's not like getting off the farms made us healthier. It's not the wealth made us healthier. We're just
Or happier.
or happier,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting. Is there a deep sense of, like, it sounds like you kind of are, even though you're all so close and, you have this easy access to one another, you're still living very individualized lives,
Mhm.
sort of separate from each other.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we don't do anymore is we don't do any Amazon shopping, which here is like, the biggest
Mhm.
like fast order
Yeah.
system, because we found that not only did we spend more money when we had it, but we also found that we interacted less with our community,
Mhm.
because why would we go into the store
Yes.
ever,
Yeah.
even the big box stores,
Mhm.
and see people in real life, if we could just quickly order it and it would be here next day?
Yes.
And I mean, it eliminates that need for human connection that is intrinsic when you have to leave your house to go get stuff,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
But the scary part of that is right now Amazon is testing on drone deliveries in my country.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Here
even
too.
right now it's
Yeah.
like you order anything on Amazon, it's like within 30 minutes it will be there. It used to take two
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
days.
Wow.
Now it's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost feel like it's like a genie, right? Like you just wish and it's here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there is
It
no
is a
way to return
genie.
it. If you did
That's
not
so
want,
funny.
it's messed
Yeah.
up, dude. Like, you're stuck.
Well, that's interesting. Like, so that consumerism is a very interesting, the not being able to return it part,
Mhm.
because what I hear from more and more people here is that if they want to return something, Amazon just says keep it
Mhm.
or just throw it out.
Yeah.
Like they don't want it back.
Mhm.
They don't have a system in place for returns,
Mhm.
really. It's almost like the consumerism is going so fast that they're like,
They can't keep up with
it's
it.
cheaper for us to just
Yeah.
let you have it
Yeah,
anyhow.
it's almost like Afghanistan, I think.
Yeah.
What?
It's it,
What,
I don't get the reference.
so
yeah,
the
what do you
reference
mean?
is it was easy for United States to leave all the weapons and machineries behind rather than
Oh,
taking it
right.
back.
Ah,
Yeah.
never mind. Oh my gosh. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, let's say you people are fighting so many wars. Of course, I understand you might forget one or two here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
yeah. I mean, I heard that in a public hearing, I think, where a general said it's easier for us to buy new guns than to get back the guns from overseas. Um,
Yeah.
and I just kept
Love
laughing at it
that.
for like 2 to 3 days because I was like, yeah. How, imagine a world where that's a fact, right? Like where,
Right.
you know, your responsibility towards nature is, diluted, right?
Mm,
For just like instant gratification kind of greed.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no like there's no consequence consideration.
Hmm.
You know, it's like, yeah, but what's easier right now? I don't
Yes.
have the time to think about that.
Hmm.
It's what I need right now. I need right now. It's just this urgency.
Yes.
And there's no patience, and there's no even satisfaction in getting something that you don't have to wait for.
Hmm.
So then you just get more.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like that
Yeah,
perpetual.
I mean, I think that's a big problem because, so I have a brand called as Taruvana, where we teach people to grow food, like silly stuff.
Mm.
um and I feel like I shouldn't be having a company on that, like, I should not have a corporation for that, because it's just like, chipmunk knowledge, right? Like that has been transferred to us from generations to generations for millions of years, and all of a sudden
Right.
Right.
I find myself teaching and, helping people to grow food. um
Yeah.
uh so uh,
What food do you teach them to grow? Just like anything and everything?
so for 95% of people, what I've seen is asking them to divert from growing flowers to fruits and vegetable works.
Mm.
Hmm.
Because in India, it's like, not even in India, in many countries I've seen that people start growing flowers, right? Because it looks good, it smells good. um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and fortunately more women are into gardening, and I always use that word fortunately, because um, if men got into farming, sorry, in gardening, like house gardens would look ugly.
Right.
And that's like a direct experience I have got, because
Yeah.
somehow, like, men look at it as a utility, right? Like, what is it
Yeah.
used for me,
Mm.
where women understand the aesthetics, so they're like, okay, if I
Yeah.
put lily here, jasmine there, it will look good, it will smell good, like, so they think more
Yeah.
about aesthetics. So what we usually do is we help people understand that growing your food is not expensive, it does not take time, it does not need not a lot of knowledge. um, and we help them, grow like small things like cucumber, radish, carrots, wherever, in their apartments or whatever. And once they
Mhm.
get that first harvest, right, like they get that boost, you know it feels good for them because they grew something that they could eat. um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and somehow it always
It's a
tastes
slippery
better.
slope. You get addicted to that, then you're like, what else can I grow? And then
Yeah,
suddenly you need
exactly.
10 acres.
Yeah, yeah, and surprisingly, like, everybody says I grew a carrot and it was very tasty. um I don't know how does that work. To be honest, I feel like it's the same food, but the nutrition values are different, because
Yeah.
in the past, like, 10 to 12 years, throughout the world, we have lost more than 800 heirloom seeds, like they're extinct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like nobody knows where the fuck it is, sorry. um
Right.
so uh, I talked to a lot of seed banks, and I realized that seed banks are like the great libraries, like of Romans, Greeks, of India, and eventually all
Yeah.
of those universities were burnt off, and knowledge was gone because
Uh,
somebody tried to hoard it, right? And seed banks are
right.
hoarders,
Yeah.
like mega hoarders, because they are like, get me as much as seeds, and I just need to store it. And I'm like, that's the
Yeah.
stupidest move you could do. um,
Yeah.
because the best thing for you to do to preserve a seed is just get in domestic circulation, let everybody grow.
Grow it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
Absolutely.
they're like purist in the fact that they want that one strand
Mhm.
of genetics to maintain the same. Where
Uh-huh.
we talk about this a lot. Is like if you continue to grow like let's say a carrot on your property in your
Mhm.
soil with your biome
Mhm.
in that relationship, that carrot over time adapts to
Yes.
your needs.
Yes.
And in fact, like Lacey found this really crazy like study where if you put the seed in your mouth
Mhm.
and then plant it,
Mhm.
the plant will grow more of the nutrients that your body directly needs
Mhm.
for,
Wow.
from that carrot.
Mhm.
So like and it works with like all the plants. So it's just like I mean
Mhm.
it's fascinating like
Yeah.
that to me is more important than maintaining a specific
Mhm.
genetic line that may or may not,
Yeah.
be adaptable
Mhm.
for the environment.
Well, and it speaks to how intrinsically woven we are
Mhm.
with our food if we choose to be, and how the divide, the separation we have now,
Mhm.
how much of an impact it has. Like, imagine if we still had outhouses,
Yeah.
or we pooped and peed on our properties, and it
Mhm.
stayed on our properties, and it
Yeah.
nourished the soil, and then the plants grew with that in mind.
Mhm.
Like, it's this whole degree of separation removal that
Mhm.
who knows what the impacts are.
Yes.
um has that ever even been studied? I don't know.
I
And
think,
how can we get
yeah.
that back?
I think there have been multiple studies on that specifically.
Yeah,
Yeah, because governments have started to realize that monocropping or intensive agriculture doesn't work, because even if you look
yeah,
at United States, I think it's called federal some program, I don't remember it. So it's like essentially government pays you to leave your ground barren, like you don't have to farm
yeah.
for 3 years
Yeah.
and they're going to
Pharaoh,
pay you.
probably. Yeah.
um,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I don't remember the name exactly. But they pay you good amount of money actually,
Yeah,
to leave it barren. And if anybody even studied mathematics for a second, would ask why does that make sense? Like I'm doing all the farming activity throughout a year, I'm not getting paid enough, but all of a sudden government comes in and says, you know what, like leave it empty for 3 years, we'll pay you. That should not make sense to people.
Right.
no,
Yeah.
it's to control the value
Hmm.
of
The food supply.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
food supply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is a direct proportionate between foot traffic and yield, right? So it's like people use heavy equipments, you know everywhere. We use heavy equipments, and it's been proven that heavy equipments cause decline in carbon count, like carbon presence in
Yeah.
soil. And I don't know why, I whenever I talk about this in a workshop or in a public, right, and people ask me, so what, like elephants walk on the same earth, right, and they are very heavier
Mm.
than the machines. And then I go, okay, but elephant does not walk in a straight line, you know covering your entire
Right.
property.
Yeah.
And they poop and they pee, and
Yes.
I mean, there's they eat and they,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it's just such a different,
Yeah.
it's not the same.
Yes. And like we are not like, so when people do extensive farming, tillage is the biggest issue, right? Because they just rip the earth up, and people don't understand aerobic and anaerobic enzymes, and just
Mm.
bacteria, and they are just like, what, like farmers put in soil some seeds and it grows. um,
Mm.
and that's the, I
Yeah.
think, like the stupidest form of human knowledge, I would say. Right. Because they found out in Amazon that if a tree falls down, right, like if a tree, let's say, it got burnt, or it got it was cut or whatever, um, mycelium forces other plants, right, to give nutrients and water to the dead tree, so that it could survive for
Mhm.
hundreds of years. um,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so that means that there is somebody who is probably more intelligent than us,
Yeah.
right? If
Right.
they are like, okay,
Yeah.
I am in if I'm a mango tree, and you are, let's say, I don't know, jackfruit tree, right? I should not be supporting you because you're not of my species, but forest trees
Right.
do that.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, yeah.
so there has to be somebody more intelligent than us, right, figuring all this shit out.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Well, I mean, it's like, and all of that is mimicked in human relationships too. And back to like the isolation of, I sit in my apartment and I order what I need versus going out and seeing people on the street and meeting people as you're riding the subway, or, all the things that we miss out on in terms of cross pollination, even, and that inner web
mhm,
that I think nature is just a representation of us, and how we thrive.
mhm.
But we're really cutting ourselves out and growing ourselves in that monoculture system. I feel like
Yeah.
the 10-minute city is really like okay, how do we farm people?
Yes, yes. But the more worrying fact is, they are now planning like 5-minute cities, and like some
Oh wow.
insane things that I don't know how it's
Yeah.
going to turn out, because it's already shit and I don't want to get it shittier. um so let me ask you one, like, let's say half a deep question. Like, once you started on this journey, right, once you started like understanding, okay, like we are different than normal people, right? Because to be honest, growing your own food is something that's seen as a revolutionary thing in today's world, because
Yeah.
to be honest, most people are not even capable of that. So my
Yeah.
question is, when did you realize that, okay, this thing is bigger than me, and like bigger than my family, it's very important for this planet.
Mm.
Well, I would say like there's a little bit more acceptance of the like term homesteader
Mhm.
within American culture because of, our roots of being pioneers and taking over indigenous land and like um you know what I'm saying, like we have always been, American society has always been pushing
We're
the
Yes.
gritty.
the gritty and pushing and
Claiming.
frontiersmen and all of that. So if you tell somebody that you're a homesteader, which is the term that we like to use, there's kind of like a nostalgia to it.
Mm.
um People are kind of like, oh,
That's
my
so cool.
my ancestors did that, like I could
Right.
never do that, but
Yeah.
that's cool that you guys do that.
Mhm.
It's kind of more of what I would say we hear. um
I think there's been over the course of the last few years a huge surge of people
Mhm.
who have realized, oh, I shouldn't be passing off these responsibilities, and not only that, but there's a joy in doing them.
Mhm.
And I think what our passion is that we hear a lot from some of the bigger farmers, the bigger names in the sort of in regeneration and sustainability, that we really need to apply these things to these monoculture systems. We need to do no-till and monoculture systems. We need to
Mhm.
do regenerative grazing in these hundreds and thousands of acre farms.
Mhm. Yeah,
And what
yeah.
we've realized is that is something that translates to a small scale.
Mhm.
And if you take all of these people who are small scale doing it themselves and teach them how to do this, how to use these tools
Mhm.
on their little properties,
Yeah.
combined, they're going to have a bigger impact. In I don't know what the Roundup situation looks like in India. I feel like I heard you guys banned it a long time ago, so I could be wrong about that.
Glyphosate.
Glyphosate, yeah.
Yeah.
Nope.
Monsanto, I heard, has been kicked out of India, but maybe I'm wrong.
So they
But
banned
anyway,
it. They banned a particular company.
yeah.
And it's like the Voldemort of the Harry Potter, right? Like the one who should not be named.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they tried to ban it, but they banned one, let's say, one product, not everything.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, glyphosate still exists in some phases, and
Yeah. Okay.
the problem is there is not enough rigorous testing to understand where it is still lying, like where does it still sustain, and that's the
In the
problem.
water, everywhere, in your
Yeah,
bellies, everywhere. It's
yeah,
everywhere. But
exactly.
anyway, the point of that was just that what I've read is that when we talk about these big farms not ceasing and desisting with those chemicals, but actually it's the individuals, the homeowners, who are buying and using it much more liberally than they should, and and a lot of the impact of those particular products
Hmm.
are actually worse from the small scale people than they are from these giant
Hmm.
monocultures.
Yeah.
And so if we can have that impact negatively, we can also have it positively.
Hmm.
And I think that's where we see a lot of need, is that
Hmm.
we see a lot of people jumping into like a homestead way of life, but they're
Yeah.
doing it in a very conventional way
Hmm.
and having a negative impact, not only on their immediate place. Because what we'll see is people will grow a garden the first year. They'll till it up, they'll grow a garden, they'll have great success.
Hmm.
And then, of course, what do they do again next year? They till it again, and then they
Yes,
till it again,
yes,
and they till it
exactly.
again. And so
Hmm.
slowly their gardens become less and less successful,
Hmm.
and they need more and more
Hmm.
inputs. And so we're trying to help people realize that, okay, this is not the model by which we should all start and measure our successes. We should, look at a different way of using, permaculture techniques and things that work with nature to maximize the abundance that our properties all hold, because we don't all need 20 to 50 acres. We don't even, 1 acre is enough to really sustain a family and more, much
Yes.
more. So it just really comes down to, okay, how do we help people better maximize what they have access to, even if it's an apartment or like a less than an acre, there's still so much. And that's where we started growing on a stoop in an apartment, and we became, obsessed with that and maximizing that space. And then we moved up to less than a quarter of an acre, which is a really small city lot here. And we had chickens and bees and a garden that was produced enough for us, and we sold at a farmer's market. So, there's just really like a huge potential that I think we tend to look past ourselves to the big guys to blame them. And instead of owning, okay, what am I changing and shifting and improving right here where I am? And almost from the very inside out, because even if you don't have property, you can be consuming better, right? Like you can be making choices that support the people who are making those
but that would be
decisions.
against capitalism.
True. I think they can go together. I've seen examples, but it does take, you have to be a well-educated consumer. And I think that people choose convenience over that well-educated fact most times. And I don't blame them. We live in this fast-paced society that makes it seem like, all of the like activities for our children
but guys, I have a question, Lacey. I have a question for you.
Sorry.
You said that, I always hear this, that we live in a fast society and people do not have the same attention span as they had like 100 years ago, whatever. And I think we are totally against it. Today we are a very slow culture. If you look at it, right, there used to be a time when every farmer used to do seasonal farming, right?
Yeah.
And until even 1920s was the earliest record that I went through, where people were doing companion farming. And that was a fast-paced life, right? Because every season you had to adopt, every season you had to change your methods, every season you had to change what you grow, how you consume. So you're constantly adopting. Whereas today you could eat mango for 12 months in a year.
Yeah, that's true.
And you could eat any seasonal fruit for literally every year, every day of the year. And nobody thinks about, okay, like mango is supposed to be in summer. Why the fuck is it's like snowing, I'm still eating mango? Like, it should not make sense.
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
And then they say, but who cares, because it tastes delicious.
Yeah.
But at what nobody says at what cost.
No, but also I don't think those people have tasted real mango, Drew, I would say.
Right.
Because I feel like, just like you, anybody who eats fresh food for the first time, they get addicted onto it. It has a similar properties of a cocaine, like it will always have you chasing that high, right, of responsible food, I would say. Responsible food meaning you know where it came from and how much work it took you to grow. And
I like that, responsible food. That's a good one.
And I also feel like that's one of the core reasons for obesity in today's world. And modern science absolutely fucks it up by saying you are addicted to food. And I'm like, no, you're not. Because ask anybody who has grown a friggin', I don't know, cucumber, ask him, and they would say that eating fresh food requires less food.
Yes.
Right. And I think you can support me on this. Like, when you eat fresh food, you don't eat a lot, actually.
Yeah, I would say that we've been trained to tap into our primitive life of salt and sugar. Like, you think of primitive man, you would find a source of salt and you'd be like, I got to eat all this because I don't know the next time I'm going to find salt, or sugar, same thing.
No food at all.
And then
so
all these food manufacturers have found, like, okay, we'll sprinkle it with salt and we'll sprinkle it with sugar, and they'll eat whatever we put in the middle.
Well,
Like,
and even just thinking about carrots, okay, because you mentioned carrots.
Mhm.
In America, we have these little bags of carrots that are like bite size.
Mhm.
They're peeled and they're ready to just eat. They're like this big, and you can sit
you
there.
don't have those?
You
No,
don't have
no,
those
no,
carrots.
definitely not.
We call them baby
Baby
carrots.
carrots. And what the industry did is they took the ugly carrots, they put them through a machine and peeled them and made them look good, right?
Yeah.
And that's great. They're not wasting it, I guess. But at the same time, you can sit there and you could consume like
Mhm.
85 carrots just sitting
Yes.
there because you're just like, oh, this is so easy.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna even the process of taking a whole carrot, peeling it, cutting it, you're just not gonna eat as many carrots,
Yeah, and
Right.
like
and you would also just start consuming raw carrot, like just like take it out of the soil, wash it, eat it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope every gardener has experienced that, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
uh, so I feel like, okay, this is my like concept or theory that I don't know whether it has been backed up or not, but I feel like the reason we eat a lot is because we're not able to find nutrition in food.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our body is
I
constantly
was just
craving
listening.
like nutrients.
Yes. Yeah, it's a biochemical reaction when you feel hungry and you feel like you need to eat a lot. It's often uh-oh, to do with I think you're still there. You okay?
Yep. I think someone
Okay.
wanted to censor me. Just kidding. Yeah.
Anyway, no, yeah, it's definitely like that's one of the things she was saying. She
Mhm.
changed her diet and she noticed she was a vegetarian.
Yeah.
And she noticed that when she was always hungry and she would binge eat all the
Mhm.
time. And she would binge eat quote unquote healthy food,
Yeah.
but she was never feeling satiated. And then she started adding like a lot of fats, butters,
Mhm.
and grass fed meats, and all of those cravings
Mhm.
went away, and she lost a ton of weight
Yeah.
because she stopped binging and needing that. It was
Mhm.
like a satiation issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also feel like, not only in United States but also all over the world, um, we are slowly going towards a fashion of food rather than purpose, right? Like
Hmm.
today, people want more and more rounder oranges and orange looking
Yes.
oranges rather than actual healthy food.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, because when I did my research, I found out, because if you know our history, India's history a little bit, we were ruled by Brits for 250 years. We were colonized for 250 years, and them, like them being the original corporates, right? They wanted to promote, I would say, well-being with a very big air quotes of the people. So they started to do an award system where they would award the best farmer in a particular district.
Oh.
Oh.
And one good thing that they did is they used to test the food, whatever was grown, and it was stored in archive. I don't know why they did that, but I'm very thankful that they did that. But they
Yeah.
also recorded how much cost was input, right, in terms of fertilizers and seeds and
Oh,
etc.,
interesting.
and how
Right.
and what was the output per acre. So it was a very science based, um, let's say, documentation that they did. And looking at that, and then we looked at data from 1992, 93, and we found that in orange, everybody eats orange for vitamin C, right?
Right.
Vitamin C went down by, I think, by 72%.
Wow.
And
Wow.
From 1992.
yeah, no, from 1918 to 1992, not even like 100
Wow.
years. um
Yeah.
Yeah.
so vitamin C went down by 75%, I think, and 74 or 75, and sugar went up by 280%.
Whoa. Man.
Yeah, and of course NPK also did increase, right? So phosphorus was there, iron was there, which is not supposed to
Yeah.
be that bigger of a nutrient trail in an orange.
Right.
Yeah.
But we do that for looks, taste, and just like, I don't know, it's just a messed up world,
Profitability.
right? Like,
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's very similar to in America, like the apple
Mhm.
is the same way. You know, we have I don't know if you've heard the saying, but we have the saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor
Oh
away.
my god,
And
yeah, yeah.
that was, I believe that was the older apples would have they'd be like white on the outside. They'd
Yeah.
be covered in like beneficial fungus and bacteria.
Hmm.
So when you ate that, you were essentially like inoculating yourself with like a healthy gut biome.
Yeah.
But now in grocery stores, you know, they polish them and wax them, and now they're using like a synthetic something. Have,
Spray.
have you heard of this spray called Peel?
Oh yes.
Upheal.
Upheal?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like they're covering fruit in that
Yes.
now, and it's
Plastic
Even the
wraps.
organic.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 I was actually inspired to look into food, right? Really, by his name is Paul Bergner. Have you guys heard of him?
No.
I
Like
don't think so.
he's an author who has written more about food and nutrition of food and just everything, I would say. So his, like preface for the book is the same thing as you said, because someone told him, an apple a day keeps doctor away, and he was like, how the fuck's that supposed to work, dude? Nobody taught me on the technical end. And he went to look into it, and that's when he found the biggest, like, variations in nutrition and
yeah.
continuous falling nutritions, like every year on year. um, because if I just look at it right now, um, in apple, right, because you were talking about apple, in 1914 there was around 13.5 mgs of calcium, where in 1992 there was just 7 mg.
Wow.
Whoa.
And it's like 48% decrease, and that's
Yeah.
unexplained. Like, why did it go down? Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Probably nobody cares.
That was yeah. It's a combination of all the things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Hmm.
Well, and so no, yeah, like food is not even food anymore.
Hmm.
It's like it's the mirage of food.
Yeah. And the most scary for me is spinach. So
Mm.
Oh.
everybody loves spinach. Everybody that I know
Yeah.
loves spinach, and our parents have drilled into our head saying, you better eat spinach for iron,
yeah. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I was really furious, like, because I was like, there has to be something different, right? Like something, I would say, not different, but something unique about spinach that other plants do not have. And I looked into it
Yeah.
actually, and thanks to our ex rulers for this data, I would say. um, you know uh, just to give an example, I'm just looking at the data, because I don't want to misquote. In 1948, by the way, that's when India got its freedom from Brits.
Okay.
Every 3.5 ounces of spinach um, contained 158.4 mg of iron.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so 1948, the same 3.5 ounce, and you got 158.4 mg of iron, right? Now from 48 you jump to 92. It's not a lot of time, right? It's not even 50 years.
No.
No, it's
Yeah.
not.
The same 3.5 ounces had 2.71 mg of iron.
Whoa.
That's insane.
That meant,
Wow.
yeah, that meant if your grandfathers ate like 3.5 ounces of spinach, right, to get the amount of iron, and for your father, right, literally the next generation, like our fathers, for
Uh-huh.
them to get the same amount of iron, you would have to eat around, let me just look at it, 206 ounces of spinach.
That's crazy.
I mean, I don't
So
So
think.
that
that's why we keep eating so much. That's
Exactly.
why we're
and that
eating.
yeah, and that makes me think about, so the other thing we haven't told you that we do is we run a private food club,
Hmm.
um, which I think is probably the most revolutionary thing we do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I almost hesitate to even say it on the internet
Yes, please, please,
because
please don't use that word. A lot of people have disappeared
yeah,
saying that word.
yeah.
Yeah, lot of people have disappeared saying that word. A lot of people
Yeah.
have disappeared saying innovative.
Right.
Yeah.
But so we have gathered small farmers
Hmm.
that care about how food is grown,
Hmm.
and generally within 30 miles of us.
Okay.
Um, not 10 minutes. But
Yeah.
very very close for
Mhm.
us. And we all buy and sell,
Mhm.
or we all buy from those farmers. So like our goal is to replace the grocery store.
Okay,
And
got it.
I'm very curious now. You have me like thinking like I bet if we tested some of that stuff, like I know the
Mhm.
vegetables are way more nutrient dense. I know the meat is way more nutrient dense.
Mhm.
Um, I'm curious, like
compared to what we would get at
yeah,
the even at
yeah,
the local. I
like
mean,
from the
even
grocery store
yeah,
to the farmer, it would be
Mhm.
interesting to
yeah,
see the difference.
Yeah.
yeah.
I would be interested in knowing this one question because I have found the answer for that in India, but I don't know over in United States. So, because you guys do farming, right? Like
Yeah,
um, gardening or farming, whatever you want to call it as, right? And
yeah,
your neighbor, if they use chemicals,
right.
and when you test your food, does chemical show up on your food, like chemical residue?
We haven't tested our food.
Hmm.
We've
Okay.
tested our
We've grown.
water, and
Hmm.
our water did not show chemicals
Okay.
in a.
I'm sure it comes through the air. So we actually moved out with the idea that we were going to have a lot of bees
Yeah.
and do a lot of honey.
But let's see, one
And
thing is, sorry to disturb you. One thing is,
yeah, that's okay.
what we found out in India is, if the chemical is coming through air, like it's an airborne, like sprayed, right?
Right.
The chemical residue
Yeah.
shows up on your leaf, but it does not show up on your vegetable, fortunately. But
Oh,
Oh.
okay. That's
but
good.
if you're growing a leafy food, you're just fucked.
I know. Well, that's it. We just ate spinach last night. I'm
Yeah.
like, I mean, is it really better? I don't know, because we do have a neighbor who has he grows corn just to like feed the deer, corn and soy, and he
Mhm.
sprays to kill it all.
Yeah.
And we all the bees that we've ever had here just die over a
Mhm.
period of time
Yeah.
because you can't keep them from going to his field.
Mhm.
Um, and so we haven't been successful with bees. And if they're pollinating over there and coming over here, and
Mhm.
like there's no way to kind of contain that.
So have you guys like thought about eco fencing your land, maybe?
I don't know what that is.
Tell me more.
So it's like
Yeah.
growing multiple layers of trees at the border of your
Yeah,
land.
there is a little bit of a barrier that way, but it wouldn't keep the bees from
Mhm.
going over there.
Yeah, no, but
But
what we have seen is, if you create an barrier, sorry, if you create
yeah,
an eco barrier, it stops a lot of chemicals from flying in, actually, through airborne.
good.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So um yeah, because in India, you have to understand is, we are very intensely focused on agriculture, intensely.
Hmm. Hmm.
But more people die from agriculture, like more people kill themselves, like 4.6% of farmers kill themselves every year.
Wow.
That's to say, it's I don't know
Similar
what the
here.
percentage is, but I know that
Mhm.
farmers have a higher suicide rate than even veterans, like
Yes.
war veterans in the
Yeah.
U.S.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because chemical companies are very nice, right? I love them to death. I don't
Yeah.
hate them at all. um yeah, so they,
They're making the world a better place.
yes, yeah, one farmer at a time though.
Yeah.
So they play a very nice game where, if you don't pay up, they seize your land. Like
Yeah.
they seize your land, they take it. But from a farmer's perspective, you would better kill him than take his land, right? Because that's all he
Yeah.
got. And all,
Yeah.
all he wanted to do was feed his family. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
he did not want a super
Here it's
yacht.
the seeds too. It's not just the chemical company, it's the seed companies also.
Fortunately, seeds companies are not that aggressive here. I mean, Bill Gates is trying, let's say.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
like, rich people are trying to patent as many seeds as possible, but yeah, fortunately, seeds companies are not that effective, because in India, the heirloom seeds, right, like the seeds that has come from their forefathers, has been still been preserved. And
Good.
fortunately, most farmers have not lost the ability to do selective breeding, I would say.
Good.
Hmm.
Good. Good.
So they're like, like, they can manage with seeds, but chemical is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Interesting.
a typical, if you did any vegetable growth in an acre, it would cost you around 85% of your income. chemicals.
Wow.
Wow.
So in another
That's
15% you have to
insane.
feed your family and get all the diesel and necessity things for farming throughout the year.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Whew.
Man.
yeah, so if your harvest is down even by 12%, you're fucked.
Yeah.
It's a point of no return by that time.
Yeah, right.
I know.
It's like a gamble every year.
Yeah.
You just don't know because you can't control the
Hmm.
weather and yeah.
What percent of the Indian diet is meat? Like most, my ignorant
Around,
knowledge is that most
I
Indians
would say
are like
around
mostly vegetarian.
30 to 40%
30 to 40%.
is meat
Okay.
based, but apart from that everything is like just vegetarian.
What would you say animal agriculture looks like?
Majority.
Is it as bad? Is it as bad as the plants?
Do you mean livestock keeping?
Yeah, yeah. Like
Okay.
so,
I sorry,
like in the U.S.
I misunderstood it for animal dependent farming. Sorry. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's not that intensive.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because we don't have big ranches here. You know, it's not even
Yeah,
allowed to have ranches. Like like
yeah,
Oh,
huge,
interesting.
yeah, livestocks. You're not supposed to have. Um,
yeah.
I mean, if you're using it for a dairy purpose, that's different. But you cannot slaughter cows because, of course, it's a sacred animal for Indians. I
Right.
mean, anybody who
Yeah.
has seen Simpsons can guess that, right? So, um,
It's our cultural wisdom all comes from.
yes, yes, it's Simpsons and Family Guy. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So cows are sacred. So Brits try to eliminate Indian cow breeds because they saw that our majority of our farming was done through cow manure and cow urine and everything. So they were like,
Hmm.
we take away your source. Like you will not be farming for long time. Um,
Wow.
and that was one of their strategies to like bring the economy down. Because when
Interesting.
an interesting fact is, Drew, by the way, when Brits entered India had 33% of world's economy,
Oh wow.
and
Man.
when they left it was 2.8.
Whoa. My gosh.
So
Making the world better,
Those
yes.
bloody
one
Brits.
colony at a time.
Yeah.
That's why we kicked them off our land.
Yes, yes, that's what I always say. Like, Indians and Americans have one thing in common, that we all hate the same gingers.
That's right.
Yeah, we are like, you screwed us for 200 years, now we don't care about you.
Right.
Yeah. So they tried to introduce cow slaughtering. So they were
Oh
like, okay, we
wow.
will pay you to kill, slaughter cows, because it was a form of disrespect to the culture. And they thought by offending people, they could probably force them into behaving right.
Yeah.
um
Huh.
Yeah.
so cow or any animal slaughter is not that big. Like, we don't have mega industries here. We have one or two companies on chicken though, like corporations,
Yeah.
Hmm.
but they're also not big. They're still regional, they're not national.
Okay.
So we're
Huh.
less dependent on meat, but more dependent on
Yeah.
uh, grains.
Well, a lot of ours isn't even national anymore now. China owns a lot of our meat manufacturing.
Yes, I think China owns like 40% of Hollywood or something. I don't remember the exact data.
Oh,
Like the land
wow.
of Hollywood. Like,
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's
that's
so
just stupid.
silly.
Like, why would you let them do that?
Well, they so like in the South, a big food source is pigs,
Mhm.
and the large corporation that runs like 99% of don't quote me on that exact number, but a large portion of
Majority.
of pig production is a company in China. So they came in and put all the small farmers out of business in North Carolina.
Drew, so much
Um,
for like anti-capitalism,
Local.
right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where does it end? It never
Yeah.
ends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, India definitely knows how dangerous China is because they're our neighbors, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
love thy neighbor is a rule. So yeah, I mean, I see Americans, and I recently saw a YouTube video. I don't know whether you guys saw it or not, where they were asking young children like, how do you think food is grown? And
Oh yeah.
one of the young kids said, she said that I think vegetables are like manufactured in industries, and I felt so sad for that kid's future,
Yeah.
right? Because
That's
imagine having
yeah,
zero contact with nature or soil.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's where we're going now.
yeah, and there was a census that said like 13% of Americans don't like to touch soil. um yeah,
that's that's so sad.
yeah.
And I mean, the thing is that they're missing, like, what they've proven is that that contact with the soil has so many health benefits. I
Hmm.
mean, it's just a huge improvement in overall health, your gut bacteria. Children who are raised in on a farm, they're more resilient, and they're less sick all the time.
Hmm.
And so yeah, you see these kids who are suffering from major allergies and asthmas and gut health, IBS, Crohn's. It's just on the rise in a massive way.
Hmm.
And meanwhile, they're like, oh, but don't get dirty because then you'll get sick. And it's
Yes.
like, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. Get dirty so you don't get sick. But it's a
Yeah.
really hard flop.
Hmm.
People are just really,
Yeah, but
yeah,
also I feel
afraid the
like,
wrong.
I feel like people who are like close to ground, I would say, right, close to reality, they grow up very responsible, because I think they're very
Yeah.
acutely aware of consequences,
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
right? Because
Hmm.
you play a Minecraft, you have a garden, you don't water it for 2 days, it dies, nothing happens, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
imagine
Very
your
true.
family being dependent on it, and plants
Yeah.
don't grow. It's a very sad
Yeah.
outcome.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so true. It's not, yeah. And I think in parenting, that's one of the things that we've learned is giving our kids these opportunities to have natural consequences in
Yes.
reality.
Yeah.
That isn't even necessarily me saying, no, you can't do that, or no, that's a bad idea, or punishing them for whatever,
Hmm.
which is, I think, when you're separate from nature does, we call it Mother Earth for a reason. She's got lots of lessons to teach. And if we as parents take on the role of teaching all those lessons,
Yeah.
you have a child that feels disassociated with
Hmm.
their natural environment, and
Yeah.
there's really no recovering from that,
Hmm.
right? I think that's a lot of where anxiety issues and depression issues come in.
Hmm.
And we're seeing that more and more. And as kids turn into teenagers, turn into young adults, like they're just floundering because they just don't understand their part in the
Yeah.
world around them.
Yeah. I think discipline is a very cruel world in today's era, right? Nobody likes the
Yeah.
D word.
Right.
The D word used to be a human part. Now it has become an integral, dangerous thing, right? Like, how dare you talk about discipline? Like, who needs discipline,
Right.
right? Like,
Yeah.
who needs joint families? Like, come on,
Right.
we need to be independent. I don't know, independent from what or where. Um, and I think these are the same people that talk about freedom or independence that would not survive without a flat screen,
Right.
right?
It's so fascinating. We've kind of uncovered that a little bit within American context.
Mhm.
Culture here is very drawn to those words of independence and freedom. And yet when we do that, when we pull out from society, we have to be really careful that we're pulling out from the right things and not from the community aspects and the
Yeah.
parts that are so intrinsic in our, how
Yeah.
we're built, designed. Because yeah, it's true. Like the American dream is like, I can do this, right? But doing it alone leaves you feeling, that's where I think too with these farmers, where a lot
Mhm.
of the death comes in is because they feel so alone.
Yeah.
And that's not how we're meant to live. They should
Mhm.
not be taking on all of that by themselves. It shouldn't be
Mhm.
their load to carry alone.
Yeah.
But that's how we're left. And in the United States, that's for sure been the
Mhm.
the MO of farmers for the last 100 to 200 years, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, people think like armies are very powerful, right? No hate against them, because US spends like 16 times more than anybody, right, on armed forces. I love it.
Another form of gluttony, I think.
Yeah, I know. I'm all for Oppenheimer and hydrogen bombs and nuclear bombs. I absolutely like them because, um, I want to survive. Um, but what I feel is, um, people who have studied even history, right, understand that when farmers revolt, like literal kingdoms have fallen. Like when farmers said "fuck you" to the king, like that that started the end of that civilization, or that kingdom as we know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
right now you can look at Polish like news, right, like from Poland, and
Yeah.
they tried to do some swift shit with farmers, and they were like, no, no, it does not fly here.
Yeah.
Yeah, in France too, they were doing some. They were showing the farmers were showing them. Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's not going to happen.
it's that old saying of fuck around find out, right? Like,
Right.
farmers
Yeah.
are really weird people, just leave them alone. I always say this.
Yeah.
Any country, I think it's a wet dream of every powerful person to control that sector, food.
Yeah.
And
It's been interesting because in the US it hasn't come to that yet.
hopefully, yeah.
I think because the largest farmers are subsidized so greatly
Mhm.
by the federal government
Yeah.
that it will take a lot.
Mhm.
Like they just haven't been pushed that far yet. I
Yes.
I will say that it feels like almost on the horizon,
Mhm.
but
Well, I think that
yeah.
the American government realizes that, and they're going to placate farmers as long as they can, which probably just means funding them more and more subsidies, which only
Yeah.
entrench the problems even further.
Mhm.
So it will be interesting to see how the next decade plays out, because I think the farmland
But guys, I
has grown
don't
to a
think we
point
have to
where
wait for a decade, to be honest.
no, not even that long.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not even that long, because
yeah,
everybody was running for tissue papers during freaking COVID, right? Like,
yeah.
you guys remember
Hmm.
that? And that was not even a crisis per se. It was just a logistical issue.
Right.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now imagine farmers saying, I just don't feel like growing food now.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that would. Mhm. It would be interesting to see. And that's a piece of why we're really into the like connecting the small farmers, because then we aren't reliant on these systems that are clearly about to fail.
Mhm.
It's like putting your money in the stock market when you can see the bottom is about to fall out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It
But
really
I
makes me
feel,
think about
yeah,
the
sorry.
oh, go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
I feel like when consumers say farmers are very bad people because they're putting chemicals in food, I'm like, no, because you are the bad person. Because you decided to be a weak person and not stand for what you want. And
Right.
now
Mm.
government subsidizes chemicals, and GMOs and monocropping. So farmers do what he got to do, right? He has to play the
Yeah.
system. He does not have any other option,
Hmm.
Yeah.
right? Because most
Right.
farmers
And if
survive
he
from
doesn't
season
do
to
it,
season.
someone else is going to step in.
Exactly. Yeah. Or the chemical companies will do it by themselves,
True.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so if you look at it as in a very macro level, most of the farmers survive from season to season, if I'm right. So if couple of
But
season
yeah.
goes bad, they're done. They're bankrupt. They do not have anything, right? And they're
Yeah.
probably in debt.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yes.
that's why they're forced to go bankrupt. It and farming is not one of those things where you will see rising profits every year like corporations,
Right.
right? Um,
Yeah.
if Apple did not make like $100 million this quarter, it's a bad quarter for them,
Right.
Mm.
right? But
Yeah.
Right.
if commodities price don't rise in a quarter, it's a normal thing. It's a good thing, right?
Right.
um,
Yeah.
so it's like, I think we as a civilization are pushing our farmers to a corner where it's like, um, are you guys aware of how we used to hunt buffaloes in the stone ages, right? Like,
Right.
we just used to rush them and make them run towards the tip of the mountain and hope that they jump off. um,
Right.
and that's what we're doing to farmers.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
are
Interesting.
marginalizing them, we are taking over their land, we are building houses, and it's going to continue until a point where that tipping point arrives, and either they jump or push off, and both are bad for society.
Hmm.
Right.
Right. And it does feel like there's a land grab happening in the United States of these really super wealthy people. I don't need to name names, but buying up the farmland. And it's like, okay, if we push the farmers to the point where they can't
Yeah.
use it, then they're going to sell it to these
Mhm.
these individuals, and slowly but surely that.
Mhm.
It's like a game of watching a game of Risk play out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I say the solution of socialization, like socialization of farmlands like Russia. I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah.
you are dumb fucks. Like you do not know about what you're talking about, because most people are not aware that in World War II, 48 or 49% of the food came from home gardens, not from farming land.
Yes.
Yeah.
From the
Because
Victory
Right.
Gardens.
yeah, why
Yeah.
the fuck would you work for government for food? Like it doesn't make sense, right? But
It doesn't make
all the
sense.
housewives and people who did not participate in war, they were like, okay, you know what, like we have to do something about food, and that's how they sustained.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
um, once governments realized that, they had to correct rather quickly,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And that's how I feel like communal gardening or farming doesn't work, because there is always that one lazy motherfucker who doesn't want to work,
Right.
and he just upsets the whole formula of it, because at the end of the day we are built to grow our own food,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And when you see someone else taking your food and they're not working for it, you're like, yeah, I may not like you for a long time from now.
Right. Exactly.
Hmm.
And that's what countries are doing right now, isn't it? Anytime there is even a small sign of famine or less range, the first thing they do is stop the export,
Yeah.
right? I saw even because I have a couple of brothers over in United States. I saw they were like, I cannot get Indian rice here because it's banned. Like Indian government said, we are not exporting rice until we get
Oh
the next
wow.
harvest, because we do not have enough in stockpile. Like you
Yeah.
might not last the season. And
Wow.
yeah, and it's very similar to Canada banning maple syrup at the end of the season, like at the end of the consuming season at least, because
Yeah.
that's human nature, right?
Hold on to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if it's between you and me, it's me every time, and that's the attitude that
Yeah.
people have. um and in India we have something called as GPOs, or like it's like couple of farmers get together and form a corporation, right, to sell their products
Hmm.
at a better price. um
Yeah.
but that doesn't work, because
Right.
not everybody is contributing, and especially in
Okay.
organic farming, the problem is,
Yeah.
to get a better yield they might be using chemical and still be saying, you know what, it's organic, guys.
Yeah.
Right? And there are 10 people in
Oh.
the group and 9 people are working hard, like 9 people are organic, but that one person,
Yeah.
he's like, meh, let me put some chemical in it.
Right.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so is that also prevalent in there, like because you guys have organic supermarkets now, like how does that work?
Organic is a at this point is a joke. It's a marketing tactic.
Yes,
I mean,
I agree.
the go the inspectors are can be easily paid off. You
Hmm.
know, I'm sure there's people that would argue otherwise, but
Hmm.
Well, and there's a long list of acceptable chemicals even within the realm of organic that
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
like,
I
what?
understand that.
No.
and then
Okay.
Yeah.
and then you talk about like how you were talking about like the nutritional value of the food. The
Hmm.
nutritional value, even at, like let's say we're not spraying any chemicals on it,
Hmm.
there's still no nutritional value.
Yeah,
It's
because
still
we're
being
GMOs.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still being made in a commercial, commodity-based agricultural system
Hmm.
instead of focusing on nutrient-dense small farmers and small, you know, producers.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So it's still part of a broken system.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I also feel like, um today we buy and sell at quantity, right? Like I buy 10 pounds of potato, whatever, right? World would be better off trading nutrients, like trading
Yeah.
nutrition rather than weight,
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I
Well,
feel
if
like
people
that's
valued their health.
extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's extremist idea, but
Sure.
that would
Yeah.
fix like 99% of problems.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I saw in India right now, I went to a hospital recently, and I saw that they were testing people for lead and cadmium, like these
Oh
chemicals
wow.
that are not supposed to exist in humans. And they're like,
Right.
guys, do you have those in your body? Like,
Yeah.
Oh
and
dear.
and I asked him like, why are you doing this? And they said because of rampant pesticides and shelf life products that they spray
Preservatives.
on the
Yeah.
um, yeah, but I always stay away from using the word preservative. I'm very afraid of that word.
Oh,
Because it's
okay.
not a big industry, it's just like $280 billion industry in the world, the preservatives industry. So I'm like, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
shelf life
Yeah. So let's not
products.
mention that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So yeah, I am seeing that right now in India, and I'm very scared when something happens in India, because we are somewhat weird people. Like, we don't do normal things here. Like we don't, Indians don't like laws.
Ah,
Like,
interesting.
if you
Yeah.
said if you said don't park your vehicle here, people will park exactly right there, exactly opposite that sign. It's a form of showing the middle
Kind of
finger to
love
the
that.
government.
Watch
So
me.
yeah, I mean, guys, like, you'd be surprised to know this, or even laugh at it. Like, if government doesn't want you to park in a particular space, right, they would not say no parking, they would say it's pay and park. And
Ah.
people like, yeah, whatever, I don't want to park, I don't want to pay you money, man.
I love it.
Yeah, so
Mind games.
that's what, like, here people do. And if because you see, like, TikTok right now, people are talking about ban of TikTok, right, in your motherland. um, in India it was banned in 2017.
Really? I did not
Yeah,
Oh
know that.
wow.
TikTok and another 100 plus apps who were taking database,
Right.
were banned back in 2017. And it was a very weird move, because of course a lot of celebrities lost their jobs.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah, but somehow it goes on. um
Right.
Now, like, people in United States are talking about banning it. I don't know how you
Yeah.
guys want it to go down. Yeah,
I don't
but
either.
I've heard like it's a form of U.S. censorship to
Mhm.
ban it.
Well, they have talked about banning it before, so it's
Yeah,
interesting that it came back up again.
i
I'm
i
not really
think
sure.
i think most regular people don't understand that, I feel like. Because the
Hmm.
reason they got banned in India is very simple. India government said, you take my data, right, you keep it in Indian servers, you do not take it to Chinese servers. And they
Ah,
were like, no, we cannot
yeah.
do that.
Hmm.
And they're like, okay, tata, bye bye, see you, like, like, go away.
Yeah.
And it's the same law that they apply to Google also, because Google was storing
Yeah.
our data in Europe and US servers, and
Mm.
US used to use it to force India into doing something, always.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
Indian government was like, okay guys, like, you better store my data here, right, like Indian
Yeah.
data and Indian data centers. And government
Yeah.
will provide you security to do so, and we'll also provide you subsidies to do so, but you have to store it here. If you take it elsewhere, we don't want it.
Yeah.
So
I would say the argument here has been like, why is TikTok the thing
Mhm,
that we're worried about
mhm,
the China owning?
mhm,
Because China owns, a large part of our
So much
agriculture.
every
They
day.
own
Yeah.
a
mhm.
large part of our real estate. They own,
Guys,
all these large
guys,
things. But
only your
why?
government can monitor you, nobody else.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's their right to monitor you,
Yeah.
nobody else can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's what it feels like. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's almost like punishing a kid, only you can do it. If somebody else does it,
Yeah.
you get
Exactly.
angry. So they,
Yeah.
Uncle Sam is like, how
Yeah.
dare China monitor my people?
Well, I think what it indicates is how valuable that data is.
Yeah.
Like to me, now I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, they care that much about it. What do
Yeah.
they know about how powerful it is that I am not even really paying attention
Yeah,
to?
but Lacey,
I
you
know
have to
that for
understand,
myself.
that the threats, by Meta, right,
Uh-huh.
they track your heartbeat. People don't know that.
Yeah.
Just go through their terms and services.
Oh my
They track your
gosh.
heartbeat. They track shit ton of stuff like motions and eye movements and everything. So it's like,
Where you go.
That's
Yeah.
that's like, it's like they made the Apple Watch and they're like, yeah, everybody needs an Apple Watch. Strap
yep,
that on your wrist so we can track more of your data.
yeah,
That's what that's
yeah,
why they want that on
People
there.
are willing. They're like, what do I have to hide? It's like, well, you won't know until
yeah.
it's
And
no
then
longer
people
true.
found out that their insurance premium was raised. That
Turns
was,
out you're fat and we know it because your watch told us.
We know you're
yeah.
not exercising.
Turns out you do not
Yeah.
exercise. Turns out you're a lazy piece of shit. So here you go. Yeah. So how rampant is like proposal for carbon tax in United States?
That's not something we really follow.
Good.
Yeah.
I don't
Again, it's not something they care about the little guy with as
Hmm.
much. So we'll see how it pans out. I think
Yeah.
there's lots of like, they're raising the cost of energy slowly and surely. So the cost of electricity is more. So they're trying to push everybody towards solar. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of little things that they're doing to kind
Yeah.
of squeeze us into that. But
Do you know? Do you guys know that in Canada they're planning to put a rain tax? Does anybody know that?
Rain?
Yeah. So they will
Yeah.
calculate how much rain fell on your property and they will tax you on that.
Wow.
oh my gosh.
That's the kind of thing that's going to tip the United States citizens over the edge.
Yeah.
We
Well,
we
Tennessee-
threw we threw a revolution for tea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tennessee
Yes.
just passed a law that the federal government could no longer spray like weather enhancing technologies over Tennessee.
Hmm.
That just happened. So
Wow.
I don't know if that'll start to happen across the country. I hope that the rest of us start to take that
Yeah.
and run with it. But I think it's fascinating because for years they've told us, oh, we don't even do that. We don't do that. We don't, if we don't try to impact the weather, but we're all aware of the contrails here.
Yeah.
You see them, but
But it's all right.
anyway,
That
Yeah.
Leo DiCaprio movie. Don't look up.
Right?
Yeah. Don't
good
look up.
for us.
Yeah. Don't look
You
up.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have a bunch of flat earthers saying Earth is flat and all other
Yeah.
planets and all.
It's a fun balance. There's really both very far right, very far left. That's where America is right now.
Yeah. Guys, like, okay, let me ask you one fun question. Have you like read this survey where 53% of Americans said that they could fight a lion?
Fight a lion?
Yes.
What?
Fight a lion and win, or just fight
Yes,
a lion?
No, fight a lion and survive. Not even win.
53%.
With a
Yeah.
weapon or without a weapon?
No, just barehanded. Like,
Very
Barehanded.
yeah.
53.
Yeah,
huh?
53.
Wow.
I'm
And
trying to think where I would land.
I'm gonna
dude, you
hard
better be no.
I better be no. These people don't know what a lion
You haven't
is,
seen me
so-
fight a lion.
These are the same people that don't know that chickens lay eggs. I mean,
Yeah. And 47% of them think that they can fight an alligator and win. Like, they can get away with it.
Wow.
my goal is to never be in proximity of
Either of those.
either situation.
What about a bear?
A bear.
Yeah.
Black or grizzly?
Any bear.
Yeah, no, I think I would just lay down and pretend like I was dead. Is
Okay,
my
because
plan.
40% of
That's not
people think
fighting.
they can fight it off with bare hands.
Fight it off. Wow.
Yeah.
Wonder what the stats are.
Is this
Yeah,
a
for real.
international survey? Because I'm curious, like where other countries fall in.
No, it was an American survey conducted by an American publisher
Oh,
because they
man.
wanted to know how intelligent their people are. Because now apparently
That's so sad.
mathematics is racist. Have you heard of that?
Yes.
Yeah.
You cannot say 2
Wow.
plus 2 equals
2 plus
4.
2 is not 4.
Yeah. I got so angry on that lady.
That's not
I
fair.
got so angry. I'm like, if tomorrow you have 2 children, are you able to say 2 children, or are you able to say these many children? I don't understand that. Because her whole argument was 2 plus 2 can be 5.
Wow.
Yeah,
The truth
that
is
can
no
be.
longer the truth. We're shifting here.
No, I think, Lacey, it can be a true statement if you're in like a bizarro world, maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, for me as an outsider, right? Because any of my opinions do not have any stake or any impact on America. And when I see United States, it almost feels like Joe Biden is the representation of America, like because they want to say something but they don't know what they're saying, and and they think the right message is being put out. And
I'm gonna need that clip. I want that clip.
You don't know what they're saying. Oh, well, I mean, the alternative is that, and we're pretty far away removed from both sides of this, but the other side is saying so many things that you think is true, and just by saying them, you make them true is what the
Yeah.
other side is.
yeah,
Anyway,
so
we're in a
like,
tough place. Just pray for us, please, Ganesh.
I don't think prayers are enough at this point. Yeah, so what you have to do is you buy a land in India and hold it as a reserve, and the day you get in trouble, just come back here.
Come back.
I like it. All right. It's not going to be in a 10 minutes.
I was gonna say I'm not
Yeah.
going to 10-minute city.
That's okay, because right now ton and ton of Americans are coming to India and buying farmlands and doing homesteading.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's easier, it's cheaper here. Because if I want to give you an idea of how good our economy is compared to your shit box, sorry to say, uh, you could, if you are like four people, right, like husband, wife, and two children, let's say a typical family, right, in a month
Yeah.
you could spend about, let me see this, and you are around $1,000
Okay.
for food,
Yeah.
accommodation, school, healthcare, property,
What?
transportation, entertainment.
Whoa.
You could drink like a freaking, I don't know, the best. I don't drink alcohol, sorry, so I do not have an idea, but probably a very
Yeah.
good rum or a whiskey every day, and you could still not meet $1,000 target.
Oh my gosh,
Wow.
Drew, we're wealthy.
Right?
We're just living in the wrong place.
Yeah,
Yeah, no doubt.
that's what I always say. Americans are in the wrong place, wrong time. By the way, do you guys know
Yeah.
this, that it's cheaper for you to come to India and get a like a plastic surgery and
Yeah, yeah.
enjoy a
It's
2 month
that's true.
holiday and then go back.
Yeah.
Same for like dental care and things like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's why my any of my family or typical Indians come back to India for treatment.
Makes sense. Yeah.
They're like, yeah, and yeah, right now I am seeing like too many Instagram accounts popping up, like Americans in India, and they're doing homesteading
Wow.
and they're doing you know more like self-sufficient projects. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
the problem is they bring their whiteness with that,
Yeah.
right? So they
I can
apply,
see that. Yeah.
yeah, they apply their redneck technology to India, and it doesn't work sometimes. And
Right.
there are some people who are very like good with locals. So because in India it's like, if you're climbing on a branch and you're cutting off the same branch, people will be like, dude, you're going to fall off,
Right.
sense. But stubborn
Yeah.
people do not understand that. They're like, am I really falling down?
Right.
I'll just catch the next branch.
Yeah.
So Indians are like, man, whatever, like, yeah, go enjoy. So yeah, guys, move to India. I always I have two proposals for Americans, right? Either you move to India or you run for Congress. You choose any one of it.
Oh, I definitely would rather move to India.
Yeah.
Oh,
No
okay.
doubt.
I was hoping on you choosing number two. Yeah, because do you guys know who is the most successful trader, like stock trader in the world?
No.
Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, really?
Of
Yeah,
course. That makes me I think I actually have heard that before.
yeah,
Yeah.
she has multiplied her wealth by 634 times.
Well, when you're
Wow.
yeah, there's so many layers to that's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's America in a nutshell right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you
because
have it,
right now
folks.
there are multi-million-dollar AI companies who are tracking trades of congressmen.
Wow.
And they're blatantly like, you know what, track Nancy and just copy her strategy. You'll get away with a lot more money, and that's what people are doing right now. Could you
That's
imagine?
so
Because she
depressing.
has all the inside. I mean, she's the ultimate insider, right?
Yes,
Like,
because you guys remember that whole fiasco about Tesla not getting the factory, right?
Yeah.
And Just before it was approved, she bought shit ton of Tesla.
Mm.
And she bought it, I think, like 40 minutes before the announcement or something.
Oh
Oh my
wow.
And
gosh.
it,
It's
you know,
so
they announced it, I
tricky.
think doubled in price for like a day or two. She just cashed out.
Yeah.
And like there are conspiracy theories about it, like the Nord Stream getting blown up, right? So
Yeah.
Nord Stream is like the pipeline, gas pipeline from Russia to Europe. And
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
just
Mhm.
before it got blown up, all congressmen were buying like gas processing plants. So what they would do is they would extract LPG, they would freeze it, like bring it down temperature, and store it in tanks and export it to Europe. And shit ton
Wow.
of congressmen bought stocks for that.
Oh my
And as
god.
soon as Nord Stream
We're
hit, they were
run by
like,
the
yeah.
mafia. This is what's happening here. It's just a
It
mafia.
makes me think. Did you watch that interview with Putin and
Oh my God, Tucker Carlson.
Tucker Carlson?
Oh
Yeah. Did
yes,
you watch that?
yes, I did.
Yeah. I mean,
I did.
it's just like what he was saying versus what we're taught in
Mhm.
America
Yeah,
was like completely different.
yeah.
And
I
it's
can I
like,
can
okay,
give you a
maybe,
live example, Drew, if you want to.
yeah,
In
sure.
1971, India wanted to test its own nuclear weapon, because people don't know this, but we were one of the founders of United Nations. Like we were supposed
Mm,
to
Yeah.
get a permanent membership, like United States and Germany and all these countries, but
Mhm.
US said not today.
mm,
So we did not get a permanent membership. So we are one of the primary powers of World War One and Two. We lost more than 6 million people in World War One and Two.
Wow.
Um,
wow.
Britain still today owes us around $60 trillion for the all the things that they bought from us in World War One and Two, supplies.
I never paid. Yeah.
Yeah, but the Queen died, but we still owe, like we're not getting money. That's why I think they all are getting cancers out there. um,
Wow.
yeah. So in 1971, we want to test our own things, right? Weapons and of that sort. And United States was like, we are going to team up with China and make sure that does not happen. And they
Wow.
dispatched like, I think 65% of their navy, including nuclear warheads, to India. And they wanted to line up the shore and warn us like, you better not do it, right?
Yeah.
And that's when Russia stepped in for India. Like Russia was like,
Mm,
okay, you cannot bully another democracy. And
Yeah.
that was it
yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And Russia sent 8 nuclear warheads and all the submarines, and it came up the water, right? So it was visible through satellite images, and they opened up their silos so that
Wow.
US spy satellites could click pictures, and they saw literal warheads loaded in the submarine, and they were like, okay, it might not be worth it, let's back off.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't hear about that in our history.
Yeah,
No.
dude. Even recently, when this whole Ukraine Russia happened, you guys might not know, but Biden threatened to put sanctions on India
Oh.
Oh no.
because we purchase gas and fuel from Russia. But compared to Europe, we purchase only 3%. Like if Europe bought like
Wow.
100%, we bought 3% of fuel, and they were like, we are gonna sanction you. And thankfully, our foreign minister
Wow.
was like, yeah, dude, go ahead and do it, because
Yeah.
what was happening is, Drew, the problem is most of European countries were using India as a shell company. So what were they doing is,
Yeah.
they asked India to buy gas, right? It came to India, they bought it from India, so it's an Indian gas.
Wow.
Right.
And India was like, okay, go ahead and do it, I don't give a shit. And they could
Yeah.
not. And they could not,
Yeah.
because they were caught with their pants down, because this was the first time, I think, in Indian history when we said no, because we have
Yeah.
always bowed
Wow.
down, always. um
Good.
Right.
yeah, and like they always threaten us because we buy weapons from Russia. Now America
Right.
is more angry because we are developing weapons on our own, like indigenous technology,
Yeah.
and they don't like it. So
Right.
you might not know this, but ISRO, ISRO is like Indian Space Research Organization. It's like NASA for India. Is the only space
Okay.
organization that's not allowed on ISIS, like International Space Station.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And
That's terrible.
yeah, and their reasoning is you guys did not fund, like you did not pay,
Wow.
Right.
but
Okay.
so did the Japanese did not pay,
Uh,
Oh.
right? Because the International Space Station was majorly developed by US and Russia,
hmm.
Right.
but
Yeah.
you allow Europeans to go there, you allow
Yeah.
every other country apart from India. So now our prime minister said, okay, you know what, stuff it, we'll build our own by 2028. And we,
Nice.
yeah, and we are building at 8% cost of the original
Wow.
space
Wow.
station. So now they're even more pissed. But NASA is demanding access to our space station. They're like, we demand,
Wow.
like we will enter. And we're like, okay, good luck with it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
It's also, why can't we all just get along? I mean, even that, it's just silly. Like, what doesn't, wow. Anyway.
mhm, yeah,
Yeah.
Well, I hate to
like,
cut things short, but
mhm,
I have to go to the bathroom.
no problem. Anyways,
Yeah.
we are walking towards the end of the episode. Um, so thank you very much for being here, guys. I appreciate your time,
Thank you.
and yeah, appreciate the patience that you had even when things got mixed up. So thank you very
Oh,
much.
it's all good.
Oh yeah, no, this was so fun. It's really cool to connect with somebody and hear your different perspective on what's going on, because I think we do feel very um, manipulated maybe in what we're told. So it's
Mhm.
really neat to get your perspective on all of this.
Yep. Thank you so much. And whenever you're frustrated, just give me a call. We can work
I
on
love it.
that.
Sound good.
Like we can,
Will do.
yeah, I can probably help you with your anxiety issues. And like if you want to get something off your chest, just give me a call, because I love to talk to people, and I especially love to talk to people who have brain. That's
Yeah.
my kind of
Oh.
speciality, right? So thank you so much for that. And to my audience, guys, this is the end of the episode. And if me, Lacey, and Drew did not trigger you or upset you, we are sorry. Yeah, we are truly sorry that we could not do that. We hope to achieve that in some day. And if you
Yes.
are offended by it by somehow, I would ask you to go sit in a room and ask yourself, why was that? Maybe that is
Yeah.
the change that you're looking at. um, so with that thought, thank you so much, and until next episode, don't kill yourselves, be peaceful, behave. Yep. Thank you so much.